So one of the reasons why I think it's so important for feminists to talk about objectification in serious terms is not just how women are objectified in the media, because that is the smallest aspect of it. It's how women are objectified in daily life, and how objectification is a serious issue for humans to face, because if we are not viewed as human beings but as objects, all abuse can be justified against us. And not just justified, but just not even talked about or considered. Now, if you are unfamiliar with the femicides in Juarez and in Chihuahua, Mexico, I highly recommend you do some research on this phenomenon, because it will really hit a nerve in you. These women are not viewed as human beings. It is the ultimate example of objectification, this femicide. And if we tolerate objectification of women in the U.S., it has an effect worldwide for other women. If we tolerate women being treated and subordinated as a sex class in the U.S., it affects women worldwide. And it affects them in ways that only come to our shores, or we only read about every now and then. Because it does happen here. But how it affects women worldwide is in the most brutal forms. So, this is a direct result of a U.S. imperialism, which is why if you're a feminist in the U.S., it's important for you to fight your government, and to fight for your government to not behave in these imperialistic ways. The U.S. has worked out treaties which allow U.S. companies to build maquiladoras, which are shitty factories along the Mexican border and deeper into Mexico. But we're going to talk about these specific ones. What's interesting about them is they employ a large population of young women. Young women often come from the Mexican countryside and they're bussed in to come live in the border cities and work in these factories where they make commodities. They make nice dresses for Americans. They make tapes. They make I don't know, they make all manner of things. I mean, little things. They probably make like these aspirin bottles, you know, things like that. All manner of little things. And women are generally employed because, well, young women are generally employed because they have a lot of energy. They tend to be very hard workers. And they tend not to fight back or know what their rights are as workers. So the bosses can get away with doing a lot more to them. But it doesn't just end there. I mean, that's just average wage slavery and what a boss can get away with. But what can you get away with when a population is female? You can get away with a lot more. There have been hundreds of women who have gone missing in this specific part of Mexico. What happens to these women is they are kidnapped or made disappeared. And these are women who work in these factories, nearly all of them. And there are specific factories even that you can look to that have women disappear, sometimes on a weekly or monthly basis. These women are kidnapped, brought to the desert, where they are gang raped, mutilated, and set on fire for their charred remains to be found, or not found. And although hundreds of women have gone missing, there really are no leads about who is involved. Because it's clear that the people doing this are people in power. And you know, it doesn't really matter much to the bosses in these factories, because next week there's going to be a new shipment of women in from the countryside who are willing to work. This is what happens this is what capitalism and patriarchy look like when they're mixed. This is the highest form of patriarchy under capitalism. This is the commodification of women. This is the objectification of women. That's what it looks like. And it looks a bit less extreme in the US. Mainly because we've had the legacy of having a women's movement. And because our freedom comes at the expense of women elsewhere. Our ability to make our choices comes at the expense of women who have less options around the world. And our government, in their drive to control the resources of the planet, is directly involved in what happens to these women. So if you think that these aren't serious issues to talk about, if you think that this isn't bread and butter, then you have no value to me or to anyone who is serious about changing things for women internationally. We need to get things right in the US, and this is why it's important to talk about what we're dealing with here.